The first thing Daniel Reyes noticed about the child was that she didn't cry. She stood in the dust of the checkpoint road, small hands clenched at her sides, silver skin catching the late afternoon sun like frost. The rest of the world had descended into shouting soldiers, barking orders, civilians screaming, engines idling, but she was silent, and she was alone. The soldiers had found her wandering near the crash site 2 hours after the object tore through the atmosphere and carved a smoking scar into the desert outside Las Cruces. Officially, it was foreign debris. Unofficially, everyone had seen the streak of impossible blue fire and the way the sky had rippled around it. Daniel had been there because he'd been unlucky. A mechanic from town, driving home from a supply run, he'd been pulled from his truck and lined up with a dozen others when the military sealed the highway. Wrong place. Wrong time. Now he stood with his hands laced behind his head, dust sticking to the sweat on his neck. Watching as 4 armed soldiers formed a line 10 meters from the child. "She's not human," one of them said, voice tight behind his visor. "No kidding." Another muttered. The officer in charge, a hard-faced man with captain's bar, stared at the girl. "Through polarized lenses, command says we can't risk contamination. No contact. No transport. Neutralize." The word rolled through Daniel's chest like a dropped wrench. The child's eyes were enormous and luminous, a deep violet that reflected the soldiers like tiny figures trapped in glass. She looked from one rifle to the next, then past them to Daniel. Their gazes locked. He felt it then. Not a sound.
Not a voice.
A feeling. Fear not for herself, for someone else. The soldiers raised their rifles. Ready, Daniel didn't remember. Deciding to move? Later, he would try to explain it as instinct or anger or the simple, stubborn refusal to watch a child be executed in the dirt. But in that second, it wasn't philosophy. It was just this. She's a kid. He broke from the line of civilians and ran. "Hey!" Someone shouted. Aimed. Daniel threw himself forward, scooping the girl up with one arm and twisting his body around her as he hit. The ground gunfire cracked the air. Pain exploded through his back like molten iron. He felt the impacts. 1, 2, 3 like sledgehammers driving him into the earth. Breath left his lungs in a wet gasp. Dust filled his mouth. The gunfire stopped. For a heartbeat. The world went silent except for the ringing in his ears. Then someone yelled, "Ceasefire! Ceasefire!" Daniel's vision blurred. Warmth spread beneath him. He dimly registered that he was still curled around the child, his body a shield. He waited for her weight to go slack. It didn't. Small hands pressed against his chest. The warmth around him shifted not blood, but light. A glow seeped through his shirt, through his skin. Not burning, not cold, something else. That hummed in his bones. The pain in his back receded like a tide. Daniel sucked in a sharp breath. The soldiers stumbled backward, rifles wavering. What the hell? The girl rose from beneath him. Not standing, floating. A halo of pale blue light surrounded her, bending the air in shimmering waves. The bullets embedded in Daniel's body pushed outward. Clinking harmlessly onto the dirt, gasps rippled through the checkpoint. The captain lowered his weapon slowly. "Stand down," he whispered. The child looked down at Daniel. Close. Her face was both alien and heartbreakingly young, smooth silver skin. Delicate features, faint lines of light tracing patterns across her temples. She touched his cheek. Fear he'd felt earlier shifted relief in something deeper, recognition above them. The sky split open. It didn't explode. It unfolded like a curtain drawn aside. The blue dome of Earth's atmosphere peeled back in a widening oval. Beyond it, darkness shimmered, not empty, but alive with movement. Warships, they emerged in perfect formation, vast and geometric surfaces gleaming like polished obsidian. Each vessel dwarfed the mountains on the horizon. Rings of white energy rotated around their hulls, humming with restrained power. There were dozens, hundreds. Every soldier at the checkpoint fell to their knees without being told. Daniel stared. Upward, breath coming in ragged pulls. Oh, he croaked. The girl floated higher, rising above him, her glow intensifying. From the largest warship, a beam of silver light lanced down, enveloping her in a column that connected sky to earth. The air trembled. A figure descended within the beam, taller than any human, cloaked in layered armor that seemed grown rather than forged, skin the same luminous silver as the child's, but etched with brighter sigils that pulsed like distant stars. When she stepped onto the desert floor, gravity itself felt heavier. Her eyes were the same, violet but ancient. Daniel knew without being told. Mother, the soldiers scrambled backward, some dropping their weapons entirely. The alien woman's gaze swept over them, not with panic, not with rage. Assessment. Her eyes settled on Daniel, still half sprawled in the dirt. The child drifted down between them and placed one small hand in his. The connection hit him again, stronger now. Images flickered across his mind in blinding flashes. A starship crippled in battle. A desperate escape pod launched toward the nearest habitable world. Pursuers. Mother forced to remain behind and fight. Her child falling alone through fire. Daniel gasped, clutching his head. The alien mother spoke. The sound wasn't air through vocal cords. It resonated directly in his skull. Layered harmony of tones that resolved into words his brain somehow understood. You shielded my daughter. He swallowed. They were going to kill her. A ripple moved through the hovering fleet above as, if responding to her thoughts, the captain found his voice. Ma'am, we acted under quarantine protocol. You didn't know. The alien woman turned her head slightly. One of the distant warships adjusted position. A beam of light carved. A silent trench, a mile long into the empty desert beyond the road. Sand fused into glass instantly. A warning. The captain fell silent. The mother stepped closer to Daniel. Up close, he could see faint fractures along her armor damage from battle. Energy flickered beneath the cracks. She knelt an alien queen kneeling. In the dirt before a bleeding mechanic, her daughter pressed both hands against Daniel's chest. Warmth spread through him again, deeper this time. He felt torn muscle knit, felt bones strengthen. He exhaled shakily as strength returned to his limbs. I didn't do it for a reward, he said, unsure why he felt compelled to clarify. The mother's gaze softened subtly, but unmistakably. You acted without calculation, without promise of gain. Above them, more ships slipped from the rupture in the sky, filling the heavens like a second metallic constellation. Daniel looked around at the terrified soldiers, the civilians, still on their knees. You're not going to invade, are you? The question felt absurd, but necessary. A flicker of something like surprise passed through her mind voice. Invade. Another flash of images struck him, her species fleeing a conquering empire that consumed systems. Earth had simply been the nearest refuge point for her child's escape pod. The fleet hadn't come for conquest. It had come for retrieval and retribution. If necessary, her gaze drifted to the soldiers again. The air grew heavier. Daniel pushed himself to his feet, wobbling slightly. Wait. Every human, I snapped to him. You said I shielded your daughter, he continued, heart pounding. If that matters to you, then let this matter too. He gestured to the soldiers. They were afraid. We all are. We see something we don't understand and we panic. That's on us. But wiping us out for it? He shook his head. That would make you the monsters we're afraid of. Silence stretched. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The alien mother studied him for a long, immeasurable moment. Her daughter squeezed his hand. A pulse traveled upward from child to mother. From mother to fleet, the warships shifted formation. Not into attack position, into retreat. The rupture in the sky began to contract. A collective exhale swept through the humans below. The mother rose to her full height. Your species stands at a precipice. Daniel Reyes. Fear will either shackle you or forge you his name. She knew his name. Today. You have shown us which path is possible. The beam of silver light returned, widening to encompass both mother and child. Panic flared in Daniel's chest unexpectedly. Wait, the girl looked back at him. that feeling again. Gratitude, affection, promise. The mother's voice echoed one final time. You have given my daughter a memory of humanity that will shape her rule. Rule. Daniel barely had time to process the implication before the beam lifted them skyward. The last warship slipped through the closing tier in the sky. Then the blue dome of Earth sealed itself, as if nothing had happened. Silence fell over the desert. Engines ticked softly as they cooled. Wind swept over fused glass where the warning shot had struck. Daniel stood alone in the road, heart hammering. The captain approached. Cautiously, you just saved the planet. Daniel let out a weak laugh. I just didn't want a kid shot. The days that followed, satellites confirmed what everyone already knew. The fleet had vanished beyond detectable space. No debris. No lingering signatures, but Earth was not the same. The footage, Daniel diving through gunfire. The child glowing, the sky tearing open, spread across. Every network on the planet, some called him a hero, some called him a traitor who had sided with an alien over his own species. Daniel ignored both. At night, when the world was quiet, he would step outside and look up at the stars. Nectio.